I was hoping to be out in the garden this morning, but in true Canadian spring fashion, we got a little bit more snow. We have some herbs that need to be thinned and topped. Our onion seedlings need a little bit of work, and our lettuce and our broccoli seeds are up and need to be thinned out. I also want to make some herb salt with the cuttings and thinnings of the herbs and the onions. So we're going to go into the kitchen and make some herb salt later in the video as well. Because the germination was so good, we have some cells like here and here and here that have 2 seedlings in them. I want to eliminate one of the 2 seedlings pretty quickly to give the seedling that we keep enough room to develop a nice strong plant. So we're just going to go through with a little pair of snippers and just snip out at soil level. I know some gardeners struggle to thin out their plants. We get excited and we're anxious to see the little sprouts sprout through the soil, but it is best for your overall harvest and best for your garden and best for the plants that you thin them out so that there is enough room to get them growing and strong. There we go, all done and thinned out to only 1 plant per block. For the lettuce plants, we got some good germination out of a lot of the seeds, but you can see this variety had a very poor germination rate, and some of the blocks in the other varieties have these little runts of seedlings, and I want these nice strong seedlings. For the many benefits that soil blocks have, they are not great for separating seedlings. So what I want to do with these is separate the strong ones and pot them up. Not because they've outgrown the soil blocks, but because I want the strongest of the seedlings. And because I didn't get the strongest of the seedlings in each of the blocks, this is how I'm gonna make it work. Sometimes things don't go the way you wanted them to. So what we're gonna do, I'll show you how, is I'm gonna break the seedlings out of the soil blocks and we're gonna pot them up into pots for now. To start, I filled 25 3-inch pots with pre-moistened soil. You can see quickly why I like the soil blocks for space efficiency compared to the individual 3-inch pots. Once I filled all 25 pots, I poke a fairly deep hole in the center of each pot. You want the hole to be deep enough to get the whole root system into the hole easily. To separate the seedlings, I carefully broke the soil block in half and pulled the individual seedlings apart. Once I separated a seedling, I planted it into the prepared pots. The last step is to water the newly potted seedlings very well. Their root systems are stressed during this process, so they must get a good watering to settle into their new pots. I started these sage plants in February and they really have taken off with growth. I'm topping these seedlings so that they will branch out and be bushy instead of continuing to grow up, and because I want to make some herb salt. Looking up closely at the sage plant, you can see the plant's main stem and then 2 little shoots branching off from the bottom. I will take my snippers and remove the main stem to let the 2 little shoots take over and branch out some more. I will also give the plants an extra feed to keep them growing nice and strong. Look at this beautiful bowl of sage. For the thyme plants, I'll also be topping them so that they grow bushy, but they also need to be thinned. Thyme seeds are very tiny, so many seeds were placed into each cell. Some of the cells have 4+ plants in them. I want to thin the seedlings to 1 per cell. I'm removing the extra seedlings by snipping them at soil level. Once down to one seedling, I remove the top growth to force more branching. You can see the growth difference here when you only have one seedling per cell. The seedling here is much more robust than the seedling next to it, which we just thinned out. I should have probably thinned these seedlings much earlier. Now look at that tray. It's so much neater and tidy. And the bowl is getting right full of beautiful herbs. The smell is amazing. Now the onion jungle. These onions have been trimmed once already, but they are hitting the grow lights, so they need to be cut again. I only trim my onions to make them easier to handle. I take off as little as possible so that they will fit under the lights until they are moved outside to start hardening off in a few weeks. They look so much less jungly after a nice trim. Now let's take this bowl of herbs into the kitchen to make some herb salt. The ratio I use for herb salt is 4 part herbs to 1 part salt. I had 2 cups of herbs that I placed into the food processor, so I added half a cup of salt and processed them together until the herbs and the salt became one mixture. After processing, I lay the herb salt on a plate and let it dry out for a little bit. A mistake I made was not removing the thyme stems. I thought the stems were tender enough that they would break down with the rest of the herbs, but they ended up being much woodier than expected for baby plants. I let the herb salt dry out for 24 hours before placing it into a jar to store in the fridge. Thank you for joining me for this seedling maintenance. I'll see you in the next one.